Welcome back, friends, to another episode of the Zephcast, the show where we get to know your favorite content creators, streamers, and podcasters alike. I am your host, ZephyrsXP, and with me today, we got fellow podcaster, streamer, and my great friend. My name is Porto in the house. Thank you so much for being here today, Porto. How you doing, man?
Hey, Zephyrs, I'm doing well. How are you, dude?
I'm doing really good today, man. Thank you seriously so much for taking time out of your busy day to come hang out here, chat, get to know a little bit more about you and your backstory. I'm really excited to see where our conversation takes us today.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
All right. First question right out the gate, the icebreaker question that everybody loves. You can have unlimited supply of one thing for the rest of your life that is not money. What would it be? And why, Porto?
Oh, shit. All right. Unlimited supply. One thing for the rest of my life that isn't money. That's a really tough one.
It's a thoughtful one, right?
Unlimited supply of something for the rest of my life. Am I going to be pragmatic here or silly? I think I might go with the pragmatic answer and say running water.
Running water. That's honestly, when I like got that question, I totally, that's a good answer. That's a really good answer, honestly, because like everybody needs running water for shower, for drinking, for life, you know. That's a good one. I honestly
mean, part of me wanted to say like dark chocolate or something like that. Ooh. But yeah, dark chocolate or water, they're the two things.
Even more so than coffee.
Oh my, you know what? I take it all back. I haven't had enough of my morning coffee yet to actually remember how important it is. Yes, coffee.
Oh my goodness. Every day that goes by where I don't have coffee, I just like think about it the whole day. I'm like, I didn't have coffee today. Oh my goodness.
Is this, so you stream really early in the mornings, your time, right?
Yeah, 7 a.m. bright early.
7 a.m. Wow. Okay. Because I'm like, I generally, when I stream, it's only like half an hour later than now, but it takes me a little while to wake up. And I'm thinking, is this how Zephyr's feels when he's streaming? 7:30.
7:30. It's like, I've thought about a couple times. About like maybe bumping it back a little bit. But I feel like I'm just in like such a I don't know if it's like a groove or a rhythm, but it just feels so comfortable. It's weird. It's like I get up at 6 a.m., kind of get everything going. And I couldn't imagine like pushing it back a little bit later. Do you kind of feel that yourself? You're like in a groove with your time. When that time comes, you're like ready to go.
You got your routine. Yeah. I think it's the same for me as well. But like I have different grooves on different days, and I got to say my favorite groove is my favorite. What the hell am I talking about? My favorite day in terms of routine is Saturdays, because I have the 1 p.m. start. It's a few hours later. And so it's like I can sleep in till 10. I get up, I go get a coffee, I go for a little walk. I might even like sneak in a chapter of a book or something like that. Ooh. And then like it's a very leisurely start. So I like that routine the best.
Getting adventurous with the book.
Oh yeah. Living on the edge.
Do you, I think you stream 3 days a week, right?
Yeah, I do 3 days a week, but I have a lot of side projects. So I do once a week a stream called the Film and Literature Society with a friend of mine. My name is Trout. So 4 days, I guess 4 days a week, I would say, average.
That's really cool. Is it like a collaboration that you both do, like co-stream together, like both get in Discord and chat? How does that work exactly?
Yeah, well, he approached me. I think I don't know. Maybe one of us approached the other at some point, and decided we wanted to do something kind of a little bit outside of gaming, which is kind of one of the things I really like about you, is that you kind of exploring those spheres outside of gaming as well. And the process is basically we choose a book, we read through a little bit of it, we get in a Discord call kind of like this but live. We keep it really brief. We have a few talking points. It's nice because it feels similar to doing a podcast, but it's very directed and focused on a topic and certain talking points. There's people in chat who have been reading along with us. It's kind of like our little book club. It's very fun.
That is really cool. Do you ever kind of see the day where you'd want to do like maybe a like together podcast with another person with maybe a specific subject?
The thought has entered my mind. I don't know if it stayed there very long, but it has entered my mind. Maybe Zephyrs, but I'm not sure what the topic would be. Like, I'm interested in too many things that it's hard for me to like focus down on one, if you know what I'm saying.
100%. Like, I feel like maybe just the older we get, we start getting like new subjects that kind of pique our interest while not necessarily letting go of like older subjects that we've had in life. So you just kind of start growing your umbrella or your basket or whatever that you got. So, but that is really, really cool. One of my favorite things about streaming on Twitch is meeting people who do streams that are not just video games. So I love like just chatting streamers or people who do like music streams or art streams. Those are seriously some of my favorite streams. So that's really, really cool that you're doing that with Trout.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's interesting. Like, I love gaming, and I'm sure you do too. Like, we both sort of say this, but I do really love gaming as well. But it's nice being able to change the pace and interface with something different, and just use a different part of the brain. And I also like, I've been loving art streams myself. They're really they're mellow. They're really good.
They really, really are. One of my, I actually listened to our previous podcast we did. For anybody that doesn't know, actually my very first podcast I was ever on with anybody was with you, Porto. And it was an absolutely magnificent conversation. So y'all definitely need to check that out if you haven't done so already. But I was re-listening to it yesterday. And one of the moments that really stood out to me that I really loved was our conversation about if you consider yourself a gamer. Do you remember that conversation? Do you still do you think that definition of what being a gamer has kind of like changed, as you've been streaming on Twitch?
For me, or for me personally?
Yeah,
I think I've realized the limitations of my gamerness. In that, well, you know what? In short, I've discovered that I'm a filthy casual, Zephyrs. I'm not as hardcore as some.
There's nothing wrong with that at all, too.
yeah, I'm not as hardcore as some, and again, I've realized that my interests, like we were kind of saying before, don't solely lay in gaming, and so then I can't say I'm fully a gamer. And there's people I know around me who are like really like great people, awesome people, fantastic to have around, real gamers, like legit gamers. So I would feel a little bit disingenuous to say that I consider myself 100% a gamer.
When you say real gamer, do you mean like the ones who are very hardcore at like speed runs or like 100%ing platinuming games, or like anything specifically like the esports legends kind of a thing?
I think what I mean is it can be that, but also just this all-in involvement with gaming. So living and breathing it, and I'll generally receive a lot of my gaming news from people I know, rather than like websites or this or that, or gaming news, or how to play a game, or the history of certain games, or what console did this release on, and what was the launch of this like, and what were the bugs on this. All these, I've learnt how much people around me know and how invested they are, and it's really impressive. And it's I love when anyone is into anything.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see.
You can like sense it when somebody's really, really, really passionate about something, and you literally just want to keep asking them questions and just listen and just like soak it all in. I think after because we actually started streaming literally right around the exact same time. And I've noticed that too. Like I love playing video games. It's cool, but there's definitely been a part of me that's like, how can I expand out of this video gameism and do other things that also are very like creatively stimulating, very creatively interesting,
Yeah, well, can I ask you a question, Zeph?
100%.
Was that something that you what's the reason behind wanting to expand beyond gaming for you?
I think it's just like I don't know, like the more I've played video games, I've always been like a fan of video games. I've like enjoyed it, but it's almost more of like the sense, you know, when you watch a movie maybe once a week or something, and it's like an enjoyment, it's like entertainment for that time, but it's not really ever been something like I could never be a 12-hour a day kind of video game player, you know. And it's just, maybe it's an attention span thing, but I get bored of it, you know, for lack of a better word. And I've always been really interested in just trying other more like creative things like music, or you know, even doing YouTube stuff, and like wanting to do a podcast and everything. I've been wanting to do a podcast for like 2 years now. Podcasts have like been a real thing that have really changed my life in the past 2 or 3 years. So that's definitely been something that's kind of been luring me closer and closer to it. But yeah, it's more about kind of scratching that creative itch, and whether it's a big success or a big failure, if it's something like I really genuinely enjoy, I want to be able to take time to explore those waters, you know?
Hey dude, the only big failure is not trying. That's the only big failure.
100%. I feel like a lot of people too think failure is such a negative, it has like such a negative connotation with it, when I've always believed, and I've said this before, like I've always believed that success is not a positive thing and failure is not a negative thing. It's just a thing in and of itself, and you can get really positive experiences from failure, and you can have really negative experiences from success. So I think as long as you fail, reflect on it, ask yourself, what can I do better next time, and just keep going with it, I think good things will come out of it. What do you think about that?
I couldn't agree more, man. You know, you look at like a really simple example is a game like chess. You can't get good without losing. You can't get good without being the worst player. You have to play people that are better than you, and that is how you improve, and you learn from failure, and so on and so forth. And also, like, you hear, I remember listening to an interview with I can't remember the name of the guy right now, but one of the creators of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh.
And hearing him talk about all the failed projects that he'd spearheaded in the lead up to that, and how that was all sort of the makings of what eventually came afterwards. And so I think failure is just a learning tool. I agree.
I think very successful people in whatever field they're in, whatever industry they're in, it's very, very, very rare for somebody to just hit success right off the mark and be lucky with it. A lot of those people who, you know, a lot of people look up to as successful stories, they failed plenty of times beforehand, and the only thing that allowed them to get to that successful step is by reflecting on it and just continuing to do what they love, you know.
Well said.
I guess kind of stemming.
Hey, let me.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. Let me just say as well that it's so cool. You said you've been meaning to do this for 2 years now. It's so cool that you're doing it, and man, I was just saying before we started recording, you've been putting in work, man. Putting in work with these podcasts.
Dude, I really, really appreciate it. It's been, I feel like I've never been a very social person. I've actually always been more of an introverted person. So I don't know. I'm guessing maybe you feel something similar to this, but like every time right before I either call somebody or get ready to go into a podcast conversation, I get like a lot of anxiety and nervousness beforehand. So it's a thing. Do you kind of feel similar with that?
Let me be 100% honest with you. I generally don't until today, because today was the first time that I'm on the other side. And like, generally I have a notepad with, okay, and then we'll speak about this, and then maybe we'll go there, and here's some stuff I've looked into about Zeph, and so like I keep looking, like thinking like, oh, where's my shit that I'm supposed to be prepared for? So there was just a little bit of I won't say I was like wildly nervous, but it's a different experience. So just a little bit.
100%. And honestly, I feel like too, one thing at least I myself have been trying to focus on is not only just doing content originally myself, but also collaborating with other people on their projects, whether that's you know, being on someone else's podcast or being on someone else's show or playing games with somebody else. I think that's also a really good step for a lot of people that want to see growth in their stream, is to not only make original content themselves, but to also collaborate with other content creators that they love and look up to.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the way, and it makes it a more enjoyable experience. The whole idea of this thing is to share time together and share memories and whatnot. And I think that's the goal, right? So why not collaborate?
100%. I guess kind of steering it back to what would be the actual first question that I do have after the icebreaker question. So big thing I always love to do on these podcasts is to talk a little bit about behind the story of who the streamer is, getting to know a little bit more about you yourself. So who is Porto the streamer, the person behind the streamer? Who is everything that kind of makes you who you are, my friend?
That is, I mean, how long have you got, dude?
2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. So who am I behind the stream? Where do I start with that? I guess I'm, the personality that I bring to streams is, I think, pretty authentic and pretty much me. However, behind stream, I spent 10 years as an English teacher, traveled a lot, lived in China for a few years, a bit of a romantic. I'm just listing traits now. I am a literary guy. I was a lit major. I enjoy reading. I like writing as well. I am sort of a gamer. I've always had, there's 2 controllers like within arm's reach of me. That's a really interesting question. That's one of the hardest questions to answer. Who am I?
Right.
I'm someone who's lived in many different places, a bit of a vagabond, a bit of a nomad. I'm many things, I think. Many things.
So jumping off of that, what made you want to major in English out of curiosity? And did majoring in English eventually lead you to moving to China?
English was, at the time that I was a university student, was just one of the only things I felt passionate about. I was always a humanities kind of guy.
Nice.
Loved it since I was a kid. Stories, I like stories, For me, that's one of the best things that humans do is create stories, be it telling your friend about something that happened last night, or getting a bedtime story from grandma when you're 5 years old, or something, or myths that have passed down forever. And gaming as well. Stories. I think that's what appeals to me about gaming a lot of the time is stories. And so that was sort of a natural direction for me to follow. And I got really into writing and doing a lot of creative stuff and doing a lot of reading. And as for the China thing, I actually had in my final year, I had one elective class that I hadn't done, I guess. And so I chose Intro to Mandarin. I was just like, well, why not learn another language? And I had had a really great experience doing this class. And the teacher, what was his name? I think it was Li Lao Shi. He's a great guy. And at some point he came up to me and he's like, have you considered being an English teacher? And he sort of planted the seed in my mind. He's like, you have the right personality. I know you're a lit major. You should go abroad if you don't know what you're doing when you graduate. He obviously knew that my degree wasn't worth shit. That's why he was like, he's like, you're not going to get a job here in this crappy degree. So he sort of planted the seed in my mind to go abroad. And, it stayed there for a while. And then it was probably only about 6 months later that I got on a plane.
Dude, that is like super, super cool. We were actually talking about it on stream today about how you can have a teacher that is just such a good teacher that it immediately ignites your interest in a subject. Yeah. We're kind of talking the opposite side, because I used to love math growing up, and I had a really bad algebra teacher like right at the start of high school, and it just completely destroyed my interest in math after that. But that is so true. Like having that person you just take a class, like, I don't even know if I'm gonna like this class, we'll just take it to kind of fill out, we'll kind of see what it's about. And then if you just have a great teacher, it can just be that spark that just launches you off. And Dude, that is really, really, really cool. With English, was it more like you loved to read, you loved to like ingest the stories and think about it? Was it more like you loved the grammatical correctness of certain like sentence structures?
Oh, hell no. I'm not a grammar boy.
It was the stories.
No. Yeah, for me it's the creative element. I'm, my mother is an artist, a visual artist, and I've sort of I grew up in a fairly creatively free type of environment, let's say. And for me it was a combination of loving to consume and sort of become enraptured by these stories, but also then seeing what they were and wanting to produce my own. It's that classic monkey see monkey do attitude.
It's not a bad thing though, because monkey see monkey do, when monkey sees like a lot of these different influences that might be very wildly different from one another, but when you kind of put a little bit of this, a little bit of that, maybe some influence over here together into like what makes you, hugely creative things can come out of it. I do gotta ask, off of all of that, are you interested in like writing a book or anything in the future?
Well, okay. So, really, you're asking me a few things here. Well, I have a few answers, is what I'm going to say. So, I've written a lot of short fiction. I have to be honest. I've struggled being published. I went through several years of really trying to get stuff published in anthologies and journals, and a couple of online things, published my things and put the name on it, and that's kind of nice. But you want to get put in paper. That's the thing, right? And I wrote a novella years and years ago. It's not good. I went back and read it. It's very cringe, but I have gone through the process of writing a novella. It was like, I don't know, like 26,000 words or something like that. And look, in recent years, I sort of have come around to the realization that writing is for me. And that it's hard for me to distinguish whether or not like I'm just plain bad at writing, or whether or not the industry just doesn't have room for many writers anymore, because writing is not what it used to be. A lot of that's been taken over by film and gaming, and writing is the lit industry is kind of small, right? There's not that many bookstores around. Yeah. So like part of me has realized that that's not where I'm going to make financial success. And that's something that's going to have to purely be an artistic endeavor for me. Mm-hmm. And so I'm getting to the answer, I swear.
No, you're good.
But with that in mind, I think one day I would like to write a novel, but writing a novel is you have to dedicate your life to that shit. Like that'll writing novels kills people. Like it's consuming, and that's something that I would like to do, or I probably won't do until I am financially secure, until I have retired from whatever it is. And that's something I'll do when I'm an old man. Yeah, put the time into stuff. Like I do have a lot of story ideas. I have a notebook where I keep a lot of the ideas. But it just like, even the thought of writing a novel is overwhelming. I knew what it was to write a crappy novella. Like, oh my goodness. Short fiction in the meantime, let's say.
So what about like Amazon? Because I know Amazon, can't you like just write like an ebook and then publish it like straight from there, kind of like bypass all the publishers and say, the internet's a thing, I'm gonna publish it all myself, and just kind of go from there? Have you maybe done that?
You can, but I don't want to do that, because a lot of it is seeking validation and approval. That's another thing about being published, is you have this. And it's sort of a little silly for me to say so, but I'm just being honest. There's this authority that's saying like, yeah, we recognize what you're doing, and you've sort of made it, or you've made it into the lexicon, into the zeitgeist. And I guess it's more about seeking that approval. And so that's why that's the kind of the route that I'd followed. And I should point out that ever since I started streaming, I've put very, very, very little effort into this. But this consumed 5 to 10 years of my life prior to that.
Kind of like maybe like college time, like through it.
Yeah, through it and throughout I had nearly a decade of English teaching, and it was I would English teach to get paid, and then I would write to get spiritual nourishment.
Do you have any like channel points or any kind of redemption ideas for somebody redeeming something that you could eventually turn into? Because I know you have like a redeem your like a haiku as an option. Do you have anything where somebody could redeem something and you write like a short story off of it, or a poem, or kind of your own haiku out of curiosity?
The thought has entered my mind, something along those lines. And I think I've joked before that the whole Twitch thing is just backdoor marketing for my writing career. It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
It's definitely not. But I'm not sure. I think in many ways I'm trying to keep My Name is Porto, the streamer, distinct from. Fun fact, that's not my pen name, and I've tried by My Name is Porto. Yes, Parosha. I've tried to keep them distinct, and so I might one day, but for now I don't think I'm letting the lit thing come into it. I've contemplated reading some of my stuff out loud, and then at the last minute I've gone, you know what, not yet.
I think it's good to, it's this weird middle ground where you want to push yourself into that uncomfortability zone so you do grow and improve, but you don't want to push yourself so far to where it like ruins it from doing it in the future. It's like this weird balance, right?
Totally. It's and I think it's something you got to be aware of. It's like you have to think about these things because you're putting yourself out there, and perhaps it's narcissistic, but I think it's necessary also.
I totally agree. So kind of stemming off that a little bit, is there any, as someone kind of who's not as familiar with the inside joke, is there any story behind the term Porot, or was it like an accidental spelling turned into an inside joke out of curiosity?
Yeah, okay, there is a story about that. So I was playing Fall Guys. Remember that game?
Oh yeah.
When that was the thing, I was playing that. I was doing the thing that was done at the time, and as one does, community gaming night, and another streamer actually, Audax Smoke. He was in we had some people in the voice chat. I think we had like Cranberry Pudding in the voice chat, a couple other people in the voice chat. But there was Audax was in just chat, and I think I was complaining and whining about never winning Fall Guys, as I do about every game ever. And he said something along the lines of, "Don't worry, you will soon taste." Oh, I was saying I never get the crowns. I've never tasted the crown. And he said, "Don't worry, soon you will taste that Crun Dinner Porot." So I think it was typos, but like something about that moment, it just broke me. I'd like tears of laughter. Like I couldn't. It was the funny something about the moment and reading it. It was the funniest thing ever. And I had Crown on the line, and we're both like wetting our pants laughing. And it just stuck. Porot became an alter ego at that point. So it's actually all due to Audax Smoke.
Nice. Those inside jokes like between friends is absolutely some of the most, there's some of the most important moments in Twitch, when we can create those like really, really good just like connections with people. I always keep seeing like Carrion say it. I've seen Zach say it a couple times. So I've just always been curious, like, Porot, I'm so out of the loop on this. What is this? So it's good to be informed now.
Well, it's interesting that you say that though, like because I agree with you on the inside joke stuff. That's what creates bonds and builds communities. But then on the other hand, there's your experience of it, or we've all had this experience. My experience of other things in other people's channels where it's like, oh, I don't really know what this inside joke is.
Kind of feel out of it.
Yeah. Do you think there's such a thing as too many inside jokes for a channel?
I think I think there's always that middle ground that's like the fine line of it, you know, where if there's no inside jokes, maybe the relationships with friends don't get as deep as they could have. I think if there's too much inside joke, it can be a little off-putting to new people coming in. Like, everybody's saying this thing and I have no idea what this thing is. You just kind of feel out of it a little bit. So yeah. I've always been a big believer that there's always that middle ground of the spectrum that is, you know, perfect to fall on.
Balance
is a real thing, 100%. What originally got you interested in starting to stream? Because I know like I mentioned earlier, we've been streaming right around the same time. Was COVID kind of the factor that kicked it off? Were you like thinking beforehand you wanted to stream? What was kind of the initial push that got you there?
It had been in my mind for several years, not seriously, but as something that I'd entertain, like, oh, you know, Twitch is kind of cool. Like I could, you know, I'd watch some, I think the first people I watched on Twitch were Magic the Gathering streamers, actually, because I was playing a lot of that back in the days. And, you know, I kind of became aware of it then. And then I remember watching, it was a little bit prior, it was like the start of last year, like probably January, middle of Jan last year. And I started watching this streamer and she was playing a Resident Evil marathon of the original 3. And I hadn't seen those games in so long, and I love those games. And I decided that this was what I was going to watch for my day. I'm like, I'm going to just sit down and watch this for like however many hours she does this. And she did it for like 8 hours. And I was like, that was awesome. That was so cool. And I saw a lot of things that she was bringing to the table. I'm like, wow, that looks like a lot of fun. Like the way she's doing this stream looks really fun. And I see how she's gotten creative with it. And I see how she's inserted her persona to it. And that's when it really hit me. I'm like, man, that would be a really fun creative project. And then it was really planted in my mind then. And subsequently, certain world events occurred, certain events locally occurred, and I found myself with a lot more time. So I looked at my laptop and said, well, let's go, you know, and I tried it out.
It's almost like that, like before COVID Twitch and like post COVID Twitch. Because I think a lot of people, they just had all that time on their hands, and people who had been thinking for weeks or months leading up to it, like, maybe I could try Twitch. And then when that moment came, it's like, I don't know what else to do. May as well give it a shot, you know?
Well, that's the silver lining, right? It was a catalyst for a lot of change for people.
It really was. It really was. And not at all downplaying any of the negative effects that COVID had on the world, but like there really was. And we did talk about this a little bit in our like first time talking with each other on the podcast, on your podcast, about like how it was, if these events didn't occur, maybe so many of us wouldn't have ever ended up talking to each other, because what other way would we get all these social groups of people from all parts of the world to kind of connect into these communities, you know, with streamers? And it's been a real life-changing experience I know for myself and for so many others.
Oh, for me as well. And it's crazy, right? Like the specific combination of personalities it would never have happened in a million years otherwise. Like these are the only conditions, right?
Right. Kind of a little bit more on the inside joke a little bit. I do gotta know, Porto, what is the story behind Final Fantasy Adventure? Because I know that is a million channel point redemption, and I've heard a couple people mention it before. So what's kind of the scoop on Final Fantasy Adventure for you?
Well, I actually changed the price. It's been discounted to $999,999. Actually,
there you go.
You know, I didn't want to stooge people, but so Final Fantasy Adventure was a game I streamed long ago. Probably, you know, in the first few months of streaming, and fun little game. I remember we were playing it, and I was like, we're finishing it today. We're coming to the end of this. And I had plans, you know, had plans for what I was going to play subsequently. And I was very excited about those things. We're finishing Final Fantasy Adventure today. And of course, the final dungeon is much longer than I expected it to be. And I've gone 2 hours longer streaming than I anticipated streaming. And it's one of those things where I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, no, but I'm finishing this today. We're like 5 minutes away. But, we were 5 minutes away for 2 hours.
Right.
And it got to a point where like I'm getting hangry, it's getting late, people are going to bed, and I'm just like, you know what, guys, we're gonna finish Final Fantasy Adventure next stream. We got 5 minutes to go. We're gonna finish it next stream, and then
just 5.
End the stream. And then the next stream, I did a sneaky one. I didn't talk about it. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. And so we play the game. And then the question comes in, well, when are you going to finish Final Fantasy Adventure? And I'm like, yeah, we'll do that next stream. And then this sort of builds over time where I keep putting it off and saying we're going to do a next stream because I didn't want to fire it up because it's on my Switch and I had to crop things and I had this whole overlay. It was a process,
Right,
and the fact that it was only for, I'm pretty sure, 5 minutes of gameplay, that was the thing that kept me from doing it, because often I was playing a game on the PC or the PS3 or something like that. And so over time it developed into this meme where people were like, why are you, and I put it as a channel point redemption, like, why do you have that for 1 million points? The joke is that there is literally, I'm 99.9% sure there is literally 5 minutes left in the game. So if you do that redemption, then the joke's on you.
So you're like right at the finale. Have you fought the final boss and everything, or is that like pretty much the last thing?
I'm pretty sure I'm like a couple of rooms away from a final boss.
Nice.
It's one of those things that like it's better as a meme, and that's why I have finish it or never finish it again. So you can finish it both ways. You can kill the meme in 2 different ways.
Ooh, I like it. I wonder, I had that exact same thing actually happen to myself. I think last June, or it was July, when like Last of Us Part 2 came out. I was playing Last of Us 1 and it was, I think, July 31st. So the next day I was planning on playing a different game. And then I was playing it. I'm like, I feel like we're really close to the end. I've played this before in the past. I know we got to be like an hour or 2 away, but we were really like halfway through the game, and it turned into like a 13-hour stream, way longer than I wanted. And I'm just like, we have to finish this today, everybody. We have to. And then we'd come to like new parts, and I'm like, oh no, I do remember that. Oh, I remember that too. Oh, we still have so much more to go.
13-hour Zeph stream. That's wildly out of character as well.
Oh, do you feel there's a point with you where you're just streaming for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, where you get to a point and you're just like, okay, I'm like mentally drained. We need to shut the stream off?
I actually don't think I get good for a couple of hours. I think that it's that my shit improves after a few hours. But yes, there is a point. Like, it's usually around. It actually happens every week on Saturdays or Friday nights in the US, where I've been streaming for about 10 hours. I'm like 2 hours. I'm 2 hours into GeoGuessr, and I'm usually like a little deranged at that point, and that's usually the point at which it's gone for too long. I only do that once a week though.
10-hour stream. That's wild. Like, do you? I can't even imagine doing a 10-hour stream once a week. I usually go for like 3 to 4 hours, and right at that's when my brain is like, okay, it's probably time to shut off. How do you go for 10 hours? That's crazy.
Well, it's kind of a routine thing. Like, my regular streams are more like 4 to 5 hours. That's what I usually do. But this one is the one that I start in the afternoon. So it's almost like 2 streams. So I go for like 4 hours. Then I take a break for dinner. I usually go for a walk, pick up a beer, or go pick up some soda or something like that. And so like it's sort of broken up with that little half hour off where I'm sort of outside moving around a little bit, and then I come back and I usually play GeoGuessr, and then it's very chill. Like it's just sort of listening to music and hanging out and clicking around to Google Maps. And so I guess it would be harder if it was just one game for 10 hours straight, but it's sort of broken up a little bit, which helps.
I've done a couple like 12-hour charity streams before, and I've only played one single game, and it's brutal. So
wow, what one game did you play for the charity stream?
One of them I did Final Fantasy X, and I think we got like 3 hours into it because most of it was just chatting. Maybe
yeah,
not
yeah.
the best game to go do for a 12-hour stream, because it's like a 100-hour plus game. It's a massive game. And then the other one I recently did was Hollow Knight, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, nice. That's a good game.
But same, it was just kind of like we picked up from where I left off, and then we kind of went some places, didn't really get too far, and then just kind of cut it off. So yeah, I almost wonder, like, what is, if you're going to do a 12-hour stream or something like that of that length, maybe doing multiple games or like multiplayer games where you can play with your community. I feel like that'd be the way to go, as opposed to a single player game that's 100 hours long that you're going to make a dent in, you know?
Yeah, and like I think it's different for different personalities. Like you mentioned earlier, you tend to, I think you said, get kind of bored if you're doing something for too long. And I'm kind of the same. Like I kind of max out on any one activity after about 5 hours. And so shuffling it around, I think, is very important. Do you think that you'll ever do a 24-hour stream, Zeph?
I have mentioned before, like the only time I could ever think would be like a big massive celebration of like maybe hitting partner or something, if that ever comes. But like the 12-hour streams in and of themselves, I feel, are so exhausting. So I want to say yes, but I'm really, really not sure. What about you, Porto?
Yeah. Never. I'll never do it. Never. No, 12 hours is enough. Like I'll do, I know my limits, you know, and that's, once I cross that 12-hour mark, that's when I'm going to say something that's going to get me banned, or that's when it breaks into R-rated territory, and no one needs that.
It's like the brain turns to mush and you're like, the filter's gone. I have no idea what's going on. This is like a totally different person coming out.
Absolutely.
I have a friend on Twitch. His name's Happy Pigs Gaming. He does a 24-hour stream every single week, and I have no idea how he does it.
I'm aware of this guy. He's a savant. Like that is a crazy skill. He must have developed the muscle memory, the physical, like his body must now. He does it every week, right?
He does do, I think, like Saturday into Sunday.
His body must be prepared to be awake for 24 hours once a week. Like he's trained his body. That's crazy.
It totally is. I'm sure it's all the Baja Blast. I'm sure it's all the Baja Blast, the Mountain Dew that he feeds himself. But like, I don't know. I mean, when I got to like 9 hours, 10 hours, I'm just like, wifey, can you come help me? Because I don't know what else to do. You know, you almost like run out of, at least for myself, it felt like I was almost running out of conversations, like how to talk. My ability to talk and communicate with people just like felt like it kept getting worse and worse, if that makes sense.
Yes, and I think the only way that I imagine the only way that it works is if you, as the ability to communicate lessens, so does the ability to care. And I think like as long as those two things go hand in hand, then it's probably okay.
I could actually see that maybe. So I did kind of want to mention too, since we both did start streaming around the same time, about a year ago, I've seen a lot of friends who started off right around the same time as us that have ended up leaving Twitch. They've stopped streaming. What has been the biggest push for you to continue to stream, to keep going live day after day?
Well, a couple of things. Firstly, I'm a very determined person. I'm almost to a fault. Well, definitely to a fault, actually. I become obsessive over things.
Yeah.
And I'm not. I see something in this that is a creative space that is very rewarding, and I see that this is just the beginning for you, for me, for people around us. I see where this can go. I see new collaborative opportunities. I see ways to get better. We're not even close to hitting our stride. Like we're on the rise right now. And so I'm very excited about the future always. That's one reason. And the other reason is that the situation sort of dictated the possibility of me continuing doing this, you know. I don't want to get too much into the whole lockdown situation, but it's been something that's happened multiple times. We're in one right now in the city I'm in, and it almost feels like if I wasn't doing it, then what would I be doing? And so it seems I would never forgive myself if I stopped. And so I'm just obsessive, I guess. Just crazy, really. How about you?
I'm honestly the same way. I feel like a lot of it is just, I don't know. It's almost, streaming to me feels like learning a musical instrument where if you do it a little bit, you're not going to get good. You know, you just need to keep doing it day after day after day. And then eventually, you know, the stride will hit, kind of like what you were just saying. I feel also like streaming is a very big creative outlet for myself. Do you kind of feel that as well?
I do feel that way. I absolutely feel that way. It's very versatile, the things you can do on it.
And even stuff like from OBS and configuring the overlays or putting stuff over here, or, you know, doing side projects like podcasts or YouTube or making content on like TikTok or whatever. I feel like there's so many things that can go into it. If it was literally just playing video games on Twitch, I would have been burnt out a long time ago. But I think there's some people who almost take Twitch as like a piece of the, I don't know, like influencer. I don't like that word very much, but it's kind of the word that's thrown around a lot, like the influencer pie. Twitch is like a piece of it that fits pretty well in there, but there's so many other parts to it that connect really well, you know, like the TikTok world, the Twitter world, you know, the YouTube world. And I definitely think it's okay to not have a piece in every single one of those, you know. I think it's better to be in platforms that you're really passionate about, like YouTube, versus, you know, some people who are not into TikTok. I totally get why they're not into TikTok or Twitter or Instagram or whatever. But I think when you find those platforms where you're like, I like that kind of content, I want to do more of that, and incorporate that into Twitch, it just becomes like a creative outlet boom, you know?
Yeah, and you can create your own variety in life, and you know, I think a lot of jobs that I've done in the past, a lot of what's gotten to me about them has been the monotony and the repetitiveness. But the thing is, we're in control of this. We don't have to do that. And so I love doing the gaming streams, but I also love doing the YouTube stuff, the podcasts, the lit stuff, all of that. It keeps me excited every time I'm doing something because it's different to what I did the last time, you know? And no, I love it. I love it.
I totally agree. I think having that sense of just like, you're excited to go live, you're excited to try new things, and just having that excitement there always, like no matter what, having that as a focus. Like I want to be excited about what I'm doing. I want to be passionate about it. And if it's not in maybe this game or this niche or this whatever, like switch it up. You know, I think it's really important for people to try new things, to experiment, and to try to find something that reignites that spark, you know?
Oh yeah. You know, another thing that I didn't think I would love about this, but I have grown to love, is the kind of geeking out over technology stuff. Don't get me wrong, I'm constantly tilted by technology, but at the same time, like geeking out over new things to buy, like going to get the capture card, we're going to get some lighting, we're going to get this, we're going to get that. It's really fun, more so than I expected.
When you get that like mailbox delivery and you're like unboxing it and you're like, yes.
Yeah, totally.
I feel the same way.
By the way, quick aside, well, it's sort of related. You're using DSLR camera, right?
I am using DSLR mirrorless camera.
Yeah, I've been looking into the DSLR world lately because I'm tired of this webcam nonsense. Do you use Camlink?
I do, yeah. So I'm using my Sony A7R2 mirrorless camera, and then with an HDMI cable, it's connected straight to a Camlink, and then from the Camlink, it's connected to the USB port on the computer.
It like, see, that's that geeking out. I'm already getting a little bit aroused. I love it.
It like tells the computer that the camera's not really a camera, but that it's a webcam, so it'll like let it stay on 24/7 and everything. Right. But yeah, I would say I think the two biggest ones right now that I see in that mirrorless DSLR kind of capture world for streamers is the Sony cameras and the Canon cameras. And both of them are phenomenal. I have the Sony one myself, and I didn't buy it for streaming. We've had it for like 5 or 6 years. And originally when I started streaming, I actually bought a webcam because everyone was like, when you're starting streaming, you need the Logitech C920 or whatever the name of it was. And I bought it, got it delivered, and then literally the day it got delivered to me, I was watching a YouTube video about how you can use your mirrorless camera as it, and I was like, wait, this cam link is $100 and I can use my fancy Sony camera, or I could spend $80 for a webcam. I'm gonna send the webcam back and buy the cam link because I already had the camera. And it's great. I think for a lot of people, and me and my friend Mr. Danny, we're actually having a pretty in-depth conversation about like hardware and how some people, there's almost some people who almost feel like if I buy the fancy camera, if I buy the fancy microphone, you know, I'm gonna get thousands of viewers and everything like that. And I'm very much an advocate against that. I think for a lot of people, like, it's really important to have good content first, have, you know, a good stream, have good just creative projects that you're doing, and you know, the microphone will come in time, the camera will come in time. But people who think they can buy $1,000, $2,000 worth of gear and it's going to immediately transform them into a partner Twitch streamer tomorrow are going to be in for a pretty rude awakening. So
you're totally right, and it is the personality but drive that is the driving force, and the creative you know, stuff that's going on. And I should point out, this is me now I've been using this Logitech for like 15 months now, and it served me great. But one of the things is that it sometimes freezes up on me, and so like you know, I was gonna do a microphone upgrade because that's the real truth, right? That sound is more important than visuals. But the fact that this is sometimes a little bit faulty, now I've just started geeking out on the DSLR world, looking at Canons and this and that.
Well, 100%. If you have any questions about like mic stuff or camera stuff, 100%. I'm also I love geeking out about that kind of hardware stuff as well. So 100%, I'm here if you have any questions for it. I think it's, a lot of people do say that audio is usually the one you kind of want to put that money towards first, but honestly, like with camera or with audio, if you get like a $50, $100 microphone, there's a lot of settings you can kind of configure in OBS that mimic a lot of that, like compression and de-esser and a lot of those settings to make the audio sound really high quality. So you can almost fake having a really fancy microphone in the settings of it, whereas the camera, you can kind of do it to a little bit of an extent, but it doesn't quite pack the same amount of punch, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And I think for both of these things, there is like a level, there's an entry point, you know, like once you've met these standards, you're fine. And it's I recently got to a point where it was just like, well, I've kind of got everything and I've been working on the content and channel's growing, and it's like, well, now what do I upgrade? I'm at that point.
There's definitely a point of like diminishing returns. There's like a floor and a ceiling, and kind of in that middle ground is where, you know, a lot of people want to be. So I definitely, I just got like a brand new PC, brand new monitors. I've definitely.
How's that going, man?
Oh my God, it is the best thing in the world to stream and to not have to stare the entire stream at like this battery percentage indicator on the bottom. And it's like, all right, everybody, my computer's at 6% battery life, so we got to end the stream today and go raid out. So it's incredible to not have to think about that, and to be able to stream in high resolution and like record everything in like super high bit rate. And I'm blown away excited for it.
It's awesome. But then there's another example of what we're kind of talking about, right? Like you went for what, a year before getting the PC?
Yeah, I just got it like 2 weeks ago. So yeah, it was like 14 months. So a little bit over a year.
Went for over a year. And so like, I feel like now you appreciate it much more than had you started out with it. Like you kind of have a better appreciation, understanding of how it helps you. So I think that's another argument for starting off janky. Like I started off on the crappiest laptop. Like it was, I'm still not even sure how it streamed. Like I don't know. It's a feat that it even streamed anything. But now I have a bigger appreciation for my PC.
I think for a lot of people, like one of the things that just kind of like destroys me a little bit inside is when I see people on Twitter who are saying, I'm saving up for that really fancy microphone, or I'm saving up for a capture card or whatever so I can start streaming. And I just want to tell people like, no, if you really want to stream, you could probably stream for what you got right this second without buying anything extra. It might be straight from your PlayStation 4, or it might just be with like the little earbuds kind of microphone, nothing like super duper fancy. But if you really want to stream, most likely you already got everything that you can have to start streaming. And then you get $50, maybe you buy a USB microphone, you get another $50, maybe you get a webcam, and you just kind of like slowly work up from there,
And that's fun. Like watching I'm a sucker for slow improvement. Like just watching the getting the tools as they grow slowly around you. That's great fun.
And it's also fun to see the progress, when you look back those videos, because I'm sure you do this. I know I do this, like looking at those videos from a year ago, 8 months ago, 6 months, 4 months, like every single time you're like, I see improvements there. I see something there. It's just like this big growth versus if you drop $10,000 right out the gate and you have like the coolest setup in the world. And then 2 weeks into it, you're like, you know what? I have 0 viewers. I don't know if this is for me. I'm going to call it. So
yes, that's it. And that's a smarter way to spend your money or invest, is to know that you want to do it, right? Like you should try out before putting in. I mean, some people have thousands to burn and that's fine. But, if not, like you should try it out before investing the money, because people do change their minds. Some people love doing this. Some people don't love doing it.
And both are totally fine, but I think once you kind of get that, you're like, I really like this streaming thing, and maybe you'll kind of start investing more than just your time. Maybe you'll start investing some of that money into it, and then all of a sudden that's where you get a new mic and a new maybe a mirrorless camera, maybe some lights behind you, and you just kind of add things here and there. Do you kind of feel that when you look back at videos from a year ago, you're just like, you don't want to cringe because you want to be appreciative of where you started, but it's like, oh
man, yes. There's so it was just the other night we raided somebody and they have the raid thing where it shows the clip, and it's always the oldest clip. It's always the oldest piece of crap, and it's just my light on my ceiling. None of this business. It's light outside and it's just lighting's terrible, and I'm like, I don't know, like I'm like a quarter of the size I am now. It looks like I'm being filmed from 10 meters away. It's horrible, but you see where you've come.
Right.
And here's a question. Do you think, be honest now, do you think in a year's time you'll look back on clips from now and feel the same way?
I would say if I don't look back and feel that way, I'll be disappointed in myself, because I think it's really important for you to always be reflecting on yourself as not even just like streaming wise and setup wise, but just as a content creator. And I mean, I even do this with like, episodes of the podcast I did. My first one I did like 2 months ago. I'm like, there's things just right away I wish I would have done differently. So I think just always having that, no matter what it is in life, no matter streaming, music, writing a book, whatever you want to do in life, every time you reflect back, you should have a sense of, I've come a long way. I see some things I've improved upon, and I see some things that I could still get better at, One question I really did want to talk a lot about, like your journey through podcasting and everything, because you're actually the first person I've had on my podcast that has their own podcast themselves. And of course, everybody linked to Porto's podcast is going to be down in the description below. So definitely be sure to go give a follow, give a subscription. You will definitely not regret it. One thing I do want to ask, what originally got you interested in starting content, starting your own podcast? Like, what was that spark where you're like talking to people for hours on end? I'm intrigued with that.
Yeah, well, again, it was one of those things that I'd contemplated for years prior.
Okay.
You know, I probably, if you were to ask me 3 years ago if I was more likely to be a Twitch streamer or do a podcast, I probably would have said podcast.
Oh.
It just, I feel like it sort of naturally suits my skill set and my persona. And, you know, it's something I like doing, chatting with people. And so, you know, content kind of came about, I think, through, I was having some Discord conversations with Cranberry Pudding off stream. We sort of became kind of close, and at some point I just thought we should just record one of these. We should just chat for, you know, because we would talk for 3 hours just about anything. I'm like, this is great stuff. Why don't we record? This is hot. This is the hotness right here.
It was the first episode, right?
This? Well, prior to that, you know, we were talking a bunch, and that's what sort of got the idea. I'm like, let's record it sometime, and that was the first episode with Cranberry Pudding, a 3.5 hour disaster that no one should ever watch.
I mean, I think there's good content in everyone. I've listened to like a good chunk of every single one of your episodes, honestly, and I
thank
really,
you, man. That's awesome.
I love each one of them because it's almost like you're the same person in each conversation, but you almost kind of like mimic a little bit to the person that you're interviewing, that you're having that conversation with, and they always bring like a new spice, a new kind of attitude and everything to the stream in such a great way. It's really, really cool. I guess with that being said, is there someone that you've been wanting to have on your podcast for a while but haven't got around to having them on?
Someone that I've been wanting to have on but haven't gotten around to having on. There are a few people. There's not really one single person I'm like, oh my God, I need to have them on, because, you know, I just sort of, that's just how I am. You know, when things happen, they happen. But there's probably like 4 or 5 on my radar right now that I'd like to have on. There's some people, I'll be really honest though, there's some people who I would love to pick their brain, but I feel they're a little bit too big for me right now. You know, some streamers that get like hundreds every stream or whatever, that I would like to have on, not because, oh, that'd be great for me, but just that there's a lot of things I'd love to hear about their experiences. You know, people who've been doing this for maybe a few years, veterans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, you know, there's no one person. It's a constantly evolving thing where, you know, I recently had, I actually last night put up Melissa Kim live, spoke with her for the first time. That was awesome. It's just people come into my periphery and I go, ooh, I'd like to speak with them. And, but no, sorry, I'm kind of talking around the answer. I'm not going to say any names. No, there's no one.
You're totally good. I've been feeling the same too. It's like there's a couple streamers who I've always wanted to have them on and just talk to them and pick their brain, kind of, because, you know, when somebody's has 100 or 200 or 300 viewers, you know, and you know, the amount of viewers that like we have, that 20, 30, 40 range, it's like, how do they do this? How do they keep up with chat then? How do they think of this and that and this? And there's like so many questions that you almost just want to pick their brain for. Not even in the sense of like you have them on your podcast to like boost your own growth or anything, not at all for that, but just like you're genuinely curious about how do you operate? How does your brain work? How does point A to point B become connected, you know?
Yeah, and what comes next? Because like in the journey that we're on, there are a few steps just in terms of having more time in the industry. There are a few steps ahead, and it's like, so what should I expect?
Right, kind of like getting some foresight a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So one question I have been wanting to ask as well, what are some best tips you've learned since you've started when it comes to long format discussions with people? I'm asking this as a podcaster myself, maybe picking your brain a little bit, but anybody else that is interested in starting their own podcast or just wants to get better at conversing with people. Do you have any tips that you kind of keep in the back of your head when you're conducting a podcast?
Well, I prepare. That's the first thing. I do prepare.
Very important.
Yeah. But my preparation is not, I don't over prepare, because I think you want to stay flexible and in the moment and be able to adapt to wherever the conversation goes. So if I have 10 points or however many that I want to talk with somebody about, if we don't hit them all, I'm not going to freak out and try and force them. You know,
Right.
that stuff is there as possible fodder, conversation fodder. But I think, look, the most important advice that I would give is remember that you're doing a podcast, but also try and forget that you're doing a podcast.
It's like that
If you know what I
50-50
mean.
split in your head, right?
Yeah. Really get to know the person, really have the conversation with the person, and try and lose yourself in it. Try not to be thinking of, okay, how's this going to play off? And, you know, like just enjoy, like really enjoy the conversation. And that's a deeper one, is only do it with people who you think you're going to enjoy the conversation with, you know? Choose people that you really genuinely want to speak with, and then genuinely speak with them and just see where it goes.
That is some great advice, honestly. I think I really like the whole forget that you're doing a podcast, but also remember that you're doing a podcast, because it is very important, especially when it's just, you know, you're the only one in the room kind of doing it, like keeping an eye on OBS, making sure recording's still going, audio level's still good. So it's like you're remembering that the podcast is still there, but the other half of your brain is like, let's just go where our conversations take us. Let's talk about whatever under the sun comes to be, and just kind of live in that moment. I think that's great advice, honestly, Porto.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it's again, you know, I'm just one guy, and I'm not like, you know, neither of us a Joe Rogan over here, but you know, that's yeah, that's what I've learned in my first, I don't know, 9 months of doing it.
Do you have a particular podcaster or two that was like that big spark of inspiration? For myself, I did listen to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has always been like a podcaster I've always loved to listen to, just because he has some guests on that are very, he just flows right away with them, but he has some on that I really like, that he's almost not battling with them, but he's almost having some more in-depth discussions, and maybe throwing back some ideas that they might not agree with, and having some of that disagreement in there. Are there any podcasters for you that have really been that inspiration spark for you?
Well, firstly, I agree with you about Rogan. He's you know, I think he's in the position he's in for a reason. He's a very adept conversationalist. He's very strong-willed, but also very empathetic, and very good at hearing people out, and very good at respectfully disagreeing with people. I think he has the perfect skill set that he's obviously honed. And obviously he's an entertainer, you know, he's been in that industry forever. So no, I think and they select great guests. There's been some legendary podcasts that he's done. Aside from him, I like sometimes I like other comedians doing stuff. For a while I was listening to a guy called Theo Von. There's another one called Tiger Belly with Bobby Lee and his wife. Do you know Tiger Belly?
I have seen that one. I've seen clips of that one. I haven't watched a full episode myself, but I have seen a couple. That's good.
Tiger Belly's funny. They have a good laugh. It's usually just other comedians on there, and they're just shooting the shit. Recently I've been listening to, and this is more along the lines of a specific topic, as you were alluding to earlier. One of probably my favorite show of all time was Sopranos, and there's a podcast called Talking Sopranos with two of the stars, Michael Imperioli and Steve Schirripa, and they basically dissect each episode as fans. They've watched, you know, they're watching it for the first time in decades, and it's this very in-depth conversation about what it was like to be there in the making of it, the creative process, because Michael Imperioli was also a writer for the show, and then what they take as viewers. And so that's a really specific two-person podcast that I've really enjoyed.
So they were like, they starred in the show, but they're like watching the actual episode for the first time themselves.
Yeah, for the first time in, I think maybe Steve Shripper might have watched some of them before, but I think Michael Imperioli hadn't watched them since they were aired. That's something cool. I learned, that actors often don't watch themselves.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, I guess. But yeah, it's fascinating. It's really like high level conversation about it, but they're also just goofing off and, you know, talking shit. It's really fun.
Do you kind of feel that a little bit with like watching VODs and stuff? Like, are you a fan of watching your VODs, or like when you're done with the stream, you're like, I don't want to watch any of it?
When I first started, I enjoyed watching the VODs because I was like, oh, look, it's me. And this is a bit embarrassing to admit, but you know, I'm being honest. Yeah. It was like, look, I'm a streamer now. That quickly passed.
Yeah.
And now I only watch VODs as a necessity. I'll watch 10 minutes of a VOD max just to see like, what's the sound like? Is the video quality okay? Sometimes I'll even do stuff like I'll be watching other streamers and then I'll be like, okay, like imagine I'm surfing Twitch. Let's just tune into Porto. Let's just see how he compares. And so sometimes I just put that critical lens upon myself, but I don't do it for any other reason. I don't really want to watch what I've already done.
Again, it's almost like that fine balance of, you want to be critical of yourself, but you don't want to be overly critical to where you're like hating on yourself negatively in your head, but you want just that amount where you're like, if I was a new person, and just because I do the same thing, I'll go to my VOD and just like randomly click somewhere in it and watch like 5 minutes or so, and I'm like, if somebody tuned in right here, what would they think, you know? And it's such an interesting mindset to be in.
Yeah, it really is. And you're right, you want to be critical but not too critical, and that's one of the things I've struggled with the most.
Yeah,
with streaming, is because I have, you know, that's part of the writing process. That's part of every creative process, is you need to have a critical eye and workshop your shit.
Yes.
Workshop it down, be honest with yourself, what works, what doesn't work. It's much easier though when it's something you can put on a piece of paper and go and look at it abstractly and say, or objectively, than when the thing you're judging has your face literally on it and your voice throughout the whole thing. It's a little bit harder to separate that judgment from judgment of yourself. So have you found that as well?
I absolutely agree. Like, it's always, every time I like see myself, because I'll usually watch them like on the TV out there, which makes it so much worse, because you're like, oh, I'm big on the screens, TV, the big screens. Yeah, and it's just, I get a lot of moments, not a lot, but there will be occasions where I'm like, oh, that's so cringe. Like, why do people watch me? But it's like, at the same time, you know, people gravitate to certain people who they just really find enjoyable. And
absolutely,
you know, I think it's just that middle ground, you know, like, maybe everything you say isn't going to be a home run right off the bat. Maybe sometimes you're going to have audio issues or camera will go out of focus or something, but it's just par for the course, you know, when it comes to streaming.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to distinguish between self-criticism of the stream versus of yourself as a human being.
Yes.
Got to separate those two things.
Yes. Like, you can be an incredible, I mean, I think everybody is incredible. Everybody has value. Everybody has great self-worth, but not everybody's stream is amazing. And it's not saying that in any kind of mean or negative way. It's just some people, you pop in their streams and just immediately you're like, I'm turned off by something going on here, or the way something is set up, the way the overlay is, the way the audio is, like, something about this is just not hitting it for me. And I think when you find those moments, it's really important to ask yourself before you click out and like, oh, I'm going to go watch someone else. I try to do this with myself, where I see someone's stream that I don't like and ask myself, what is it that I don't like? Why? And same thing with some of those big streamers, especially the really big ones, who I go in their streams and I'm like, how does this person have 20,000 people watching them? Like, what do people get out of this personality? And before I click off, I'm like, wait a minute, let's ask why. Let's try to think deeper.
There's always a reason.
Totally is.
And No, that's high social intelligence from you there, like being able to, because there's that desire to be like, nah, everyone's trash, everyone who's into this is trash, but then you got to go, no, this person has cultivated something here specific. And I think a lot of the time it's just the production value of what they're doing and their professionality and knowing their market as well. And just, sorry, going back to what you were saying about going to streams that you might feel like, oh, this is not really what I'm into. That's also okay, because there's different people who are into this for different reasons as well. And I think you and I are both really, really having a crack at this. I think we're doing a pretty good job, by the way. And but other people might just want to stream for like a couple of their mates that are on the other side of the world watching it. And so the different standards are fine for different purposes. You know what I mean?
I 100% agree. I think it's important for us as streamers, just as people, like if you want to do this, you got to ask yourself and look in the mirror, like, what do I want to get out of streaming? What do I really want out of it? And some people like don't care about follows or subs or revenue or growth or anything. They just want to play Apex Legends with their friends or play, Mario Kart or whatever, or just play whatever and just have a good time with it. It's more the people who are like, they keep saying they want to grow, they want to hit affiliate, they want to hit partner, they want to be one of the big ones, and they're just like critical things in their process that are wrong, and they're like, this is all a scam, nothing's working, all of this is BS. And it's like, no, it's not BS. There's just certain key things you're not quite hitting on the mark that maybe you should be doing a little bit better.
It can be hard, but it's not necessarily BS.
Right.
But I empathize with those people, because I've been that person and I will be that person again. Like I have those moments where I'm like, damn man, like why this and not this? But that's just part of the experience, and you got to learn to take what you can from it and enjoy it along the way.
A big one I actually found recently, which I'm sure a lot of people have looked into and thought about, was the whole hot tub streaming thing. I just did not get it at all. Like I popped into a couple of the streams and I'm just like, I don't get it. Why is this a thing? Like, why do people really care about this? And before I clicked off, I'm like, okay, just try to put that intelligence filter on and let's see what people are getting out of it. And, I think it's an interesting situation. The more I reflect on it, the more I actually kind of think a lot of the people who are doing it are kind of, rock stars in a way for taking advantage of Twitch not having maybe as clear of TOS rules as they should have. Maybe, of course, things are a little bit different now because they have like the whole category for it and everything, which is interesting in and of itself. But it's like, it's almost that sense of like, who is in the negative here? And the more I reflected on it, the more I thought Twitch was, because it's it's up to them to have those clear expectations, to have the clear definitive TOS. And if it's very opaque, people are going to take advantage of it, and it's up to them to change it. And I mean, I don't know if they necessarily changed it for the better. It's an interesting change. What are your thoughts on the whole thing?
Listen, I got no hate for hot tub streamers. I got no hate for them. I think exactly like you say, they're a byproduct of a flawed platform. They are, I view it in the same way as, chat might abuse a stream. So hear me out here. So like if a streamer has something that is exploitable, for example, let's say I've got a push-up redemption.
Yes.
By the way, I don't for this very reason, but let's say I did.
Redeem.
Exactly. Someone's going to exploit it because that you have given an avenue to people, and they're going to use that. And so I view the hot tub streams as being a kind of a macro version of that. I have no hate for them for doing it. Go get your money. But at the same time, it does make me sad that what they are providing, which is this kind of intimacy, and because a lot of people say, well, why not just watch porn? And I've thought about this, and I'd love to hear your take on this as well. it's the connection. It's like, this is not somebody that you're imagining banging. This is like somebody that you're imagining maybe after banging or the next day in the pool to get, you're being intimate with them, and they're talking to you and they're telling you that you matter. And the fact that that is something that is in such high demand right now, the fact that these people are able to profit off it, shows how many people are lonely right now, and that makes me sad.
I almost wonder too from it, like, yeah, I don't fault them at all for taking advantage of this, the loophole or the opaque rules. And, if this is an avenue that they can make their bread, make their cheddar, make their money, go for it. Yep. Make that money. But at the same time, there is a sense of me that does have a problem with people almost paying other people for this relationship that they want to have that they're never really gonna have. Like anybody who's donated hundreds or thousands of dollars to some of these hot tub streamers, they're not really getting, they're getting thank yous, they're getting maybe some messages and stuff, but they're not getting like a real relationship. They're not getting that real intimacy, that real, I don't know, it's almost, it really feels like some of these hot tub streamers are, and you could even argue some like just regular Twitch streamers, they almost
it gets into a gray area here.
Right, they almost take advantage of their viewers and provide this like I love you kind of wink wink relationship, as long as you keep feeding me donations and stuff. And it's a really gray area, and I don't know how I feel about that, because those fake relationships, they don't feel good to me,
Yes, there is a certain this is kind of the what's the expression? I can't remember what it is. The
conundrum.
No, there's a saying, the so-and-so calling the so-and-so something. I can't remember what it is.
Kettle calling the tea thing black or something.
That's yes. The thing. That's the thing.
Whatever the phrase is.
The phrase, it's too early for phrases for me. But, in a way, we do a similar thing. But I think the line is, and I'm sure you've asked yourself about this, plenty of times, as I have myself. There is, ultimately, no one is being forced.
Right.
No one is being forced to come and watch. I've never asked anyone for a cent or a second of their time. I'm forever grateful that I sometimes get those things. But we're also providing a kind of relationship, perhaps one that's not so much sexualized. I mean, maybe sometimes on my stream, but like not as sexualized, maybe not as blurry in terms of, I don't think people think I'm their boyfriend or that I have romantic feelings for them. But there is a bond there and a connection. And I think it's okay so long as certain manipulative tactics are not being employed. So long as it doesn't feel predatory.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That is definitely the word.
I'm not sure I don't know exactly where that line is, but I'm pretty sure we're on the right side of the line. But who wouldn't say that they're on the right side of the line? Who knows?
Yeah, it's just this weird thing, because there's like, I'm a very like pretty libertarian person. Like, I just want people to, as long as they're not harming anybody else, live your best life, do whatever makes you happy, do whoever makes you happy, whatever, wherever, like, do what makes you happy, as long as you're not harming anybody. But at the same sense, there's like that moral sense of me that's like, maybe could this be psychologically manipulative, or maybe provide harm to some people in the end? It is you're so right, it is such a gray area. There's like a line for it somewhere, and I'm sure all of us are just like, I feel like I'm on the right side of it. I've never asked for money or viewership or anything like that. Like, I'm always incredibly appreciative to anybody that takes time out of their day to hang out, even if it's for a second. But I genuinely feel like the connection as a streamer I have with a lot of my viewers is like, I'm genuinely excited to hear about their day, to see what's new in their life, or like, did you do that thing we were talking about, or how is the house application coming, or like, have you finished that part in the game yet, or all of that stuff, versus other people who are just like, hey, you gave me 200 gifted subs, I'll write your name on my forehead. And that person is just like, oh, there's a hot tub streamer with my name on her forehead, woo.
Yeah, man, I know. This reminds me of this conversation. Hey, speaking of podcasts, actually, have you listened at all to, and this is a big one, I think it happens on Twitch, but I just go to the YouTube, Healthy Gamer GG. Do you know him?
Yes. Absolutely love that podcast. I listen to it like that's probably my second or third most listened to one.
It's pretty good, right?
It is. Dr. K is a beast.
Yeah, he's really on the level. And I watched the one he did with Sasha Grey, former adult industry.
A couple days ago.
She's fascinating. And I really, a lot of what she says resonates with me. There was one thing about, this discussion about these relationships with a streamer and their community, or the community that they've fostered, or whatever, however you want to call it. Where she sort of mentioned that, like, it might seem that it's all one-way traffic. It might seem like it's all like, yes, look at me and direct the focus on me and people care about me and it's my story. But then she mentioned whenever she's speaking with friends or family outside of it, she's always talking about stuff that happened in stream. And so it is this reciprocal thing, like I do. And I have the same experience when I'm talking to an IRL friend. I'm often talking about what my mod said in chat. Like, I'm probably boring them senseless with talk about things that happened in my chat or happened in someone else's stream. And so it's good to know that it does mean something on both sides.
Yeah, and I think streamers too can get so much out of it, we can get so much out of streaming and from our communities and from, that excitement of going live, from a creative aspect, from seeing your friends and talking to your friends, and the community aspect of it. Like there's so many positives and admittedly some negatives that come with putting yourself out there on the internet. Especially, it's not like we're making YouTube videos where we can cut and splice everything and make it all sound perfect. Like, we're live for hours all the time, so there's so many opportunities that the filter could just slip up and something stupid comes out, just because we all say stupid things. We're all human, we all make mistakes. Sometimes just things come out and it's not meant the way it is, and it's just our brain slips up. And when you're streaming 4 or 5 hours every day, like, there's plenty of opportunities for stuff like that to happen. So oh yeah right.
Is this something that concerns you? Like, if let's say there's a moment on stream that you feel was cringe, or you shouldn't have said, or you should have said, do you dwell on these things, or you just let them slide off you?
Not really, honestly. I've always been very just like, I live very much in the moment. I'm gonna say stupid shit. I'm gonna be an idiot. That's just gonna happen. The same thing happens when like trolls come in my stream and just like start saying really mean, aggressive things. It's just quick ban, don't give them the time of day, and move on. And I know for other people, like it's interesting looking at some other people who like really dwell on it, and it like eats at them, and it just like can ruin days and ruin people. And it's interesting how everybody kind of perceives and intakes that differently, because I've always been on the side, like, if it's gonna rot in my mind by thinking about it, just ban it, move on, don't think about it. We all do stupid stuff from time to time. Just let's move on and just try to make the next second better. What about you? Do you kind of dwell on it a little bit?
Well, that's the right approach that you're taking, in my opinion. That's definitely the right approach. And that's the approach that I try to take most of the time. But it will depend on circumstances.
What's being said? Who's saying it?
Not really. It's more what's going on behind the scenes. It might be, how many hours of sleep did I have last night? How hungry am I? What are the circumstances? What am I feeling a little bit grumpy? Something happened on my stream.
Hangry's a thing.
It's a thing. It's really a thing. And especially when I do my long streams, I got to have that food break, otherwise it goes off the rails. In fact, it goes off the rails anyway, but it goes even further off the rails. But there was an incident on stream about a week and a bit ago where somebody who is had they been part of the wider community for a long, long time, and great person. I still interact with them, but I snapped. There was a comment made and I called them a fucking asshole on stream. And this is someone who's subscribed to the channel. But I felt that in the moment, I was like, no, fuck you. And, everyone's like, calm down, calm down, calm down. And, luckily for me, they're the type of person that it's totally fine. And I apologized on and off stream to them. But like you say, we're live for hours and hours and hours. And part of what I believe is being honest about how you feel is sometimes you shouldn't call people fucking assholes. That's a mistake. But I probably could have gone about it a better way. Sometimes letting your feelings show, and it's not always going to be positive, but I'm just an emotional person in general. That's the problem.
I think it's like a roller coaster, like we're always going to say what we're going to say. And depending on the time of day, we might say it in a very positive way, or you catch us at a bad time and we say it in an aggressive way. And, I think as long as, because we're all going to get there at some point, for better or for worse, we're human, and we're all going to make that statement, whether we like it or not. And it's just going to come out. But I think what makes the difference between person A and person B is afterwards, when you say, you're like, I shouldn't have said that, I'm sorry about that, and apologizing and yeah. But I think we're only human as well, so
it's humanizing ultimately, I think as long as, look, we're all fallible, we're all going to make mistakes. I'm going to make 25 more today, and that's just today, but that's totally fine, as long as we're honest with ourselves and we try our best. Like I try.
Yep, be honest with it, know that it's going to happen to you, but at the same time, don't let it just slide off one shoulder. Like, recognize when the mistakes happen and be aware of them, and try to be better for the next time, right? Learn and grow. Learn and grow.
Yeah. Yes.
On the podcast discussion, one thing I really was intrigued with from you, I've personally been wanting to start live streaming these podcasts, but I've been a little hesitant about it. When it comes to live streaming your podcast, how do you manage to handle chat, notifications, stay in tune with the conversation, everything that goes with handling a podcast and being live? Because I know you've done a couple on stream. Do you have any advice, any tips, anything?
Yeah, so I did one with Trout live. I think that was a sub bonus redemption or something like that. But so it was definitely different. And it was definitely the one, probably the most nervous energy prior to stream that I've experienced on both sides, from him and from me, simply because there was a bit of an unknown to it all.
Were you interacting with chat during it, or was chat like the audience and you weren't paying attention and it was just you and Trout?
No, we were interacting a little bit. I think I was interacting with chat a little bit, but I was trying to keep it 80-85% him and I, because it is something that I was going to put on YouTube later. But then if something interesting came up, like something that I thought might be a really interesting addition from chat, I would sort of bring that in. So I sort of kept half an eye on it, but I was more focused on the conversation than, say, I would be focused on the game if I was streaming.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's
are you thinking of doing this?
I do want to do it live eventually, and I was almost gonna see if we could do it live today, but there definitely is like a wall of anxiety behind it, just because I know when I want to do it, I really just want it to be 100% me and the guests that I'm interviewing, and just chat is like the audience watching, and then maybe towards the end bring in a couple questions from them towards like the 1.5 2 hour mark, kind of bring them back into it. But at the same time, I've just always been so nervous. Like, what if we get follow botted or bad raids or just anything bad that could happen, and it's going on for an hour, and I'm just like, so tell me about your streaming journey, and they're calling people all sorts of names over there, and I'm not paying attention. So, and I've had the mods be like, we'll be here for you. So I don't know.
I think you'll know when you're ready to do it. It'll come to you, and you'll still be nervous, I'm sure. It was honestly really fun. I kept it more brief than, no, I think it was about 2 hours actually. It was really fun, and the fact as well that the person who I was speaking with was also very, like, Trout had a lot of people, there was a lot of overbleed for the two communities, so it sort of was a good vibe in there. The stars kind of aligned. It was a really good time, and I'm sure it'll be awesome when you finally do it.
I feel like, have you had a couple people on your podcast? Because I've noticed it in some of the conversations where you can just feel right away, like, I've been talking to this person for, a year plus, I know them very, very well, and the conversation just immediately kicks off, versus some guests where you're like, I know of you, I've seen a couple streams, we follow each other, but I'm not like super duper into, the community and everything. Have you had some of those interactions with some of your guests?
Yeah, there's definitely variance. I kind of view both sides of that spectrum as having positives, though, things that you can sort of lean into. So if I don't know someone very well, obviously I always have some idea of who they are, and I'm obviously gonna, if I haven't, I'm pretty sure I would have always spent time in their channels, because that's how I would have got to know them. So there's some relationship, but for those that I feel like I don't know as well, that's just the opportunity to get to know them. Right. I sort of view that situation, that conversation then becomes that activity, and that's kind of the joy. So often the people who I don't know that well, we won't really necessarily get into maybe some stuff that I would otherwise with people, because it's just, I want to sort of know what makes them tick, and vice versa. And those that it runs naturally with, or those who I know a little bit better, that's where the focus will be less on them, less on me learning who they are, and more on us exploring things. Generally it's just shit that's been pissing me off, and I try and get their take on it.
Sometimes those are the best conversations, though, right?
Oh yeah. Well, people can give you a different perspective, and that's really that's valuable.
I think so. I think it really, really is. Where do you want to see your podcast going in the future? Do you want to stick specifically with Twitch streamers, or do you plan on moving to like YouTube content creators, other podcasters? Have you kind of thought about the future of your podcast?
A little bit, yeah. I think I'm going to let it grow organically and let it go where I'm kind of going. And so, I've been making moves into YouTube lately. By the way, what a tough nut to crack YouTube is. Damn, man. That's a whole other story right there. But
it's a beast.
Yeah, it really is. But, no quit in me. So, for this period, a lot of my connections and networking and relationships have been in Twitch. So therefore they're going to be Twitch streamers. I'm very open to going to YouTube content creators, other podcasters, and I don't know, like maybe even outside of that realm, there's some people I know who I would love to chat to on there in the future, who really have nothing to do with the content creation industry. So it's going to go wherever it takes me. How about you?
Yeah, I definitely have been wanting to dive into like getting some YouTube content creators on the show. Because YouTube is it's so similar to Twitch in some regards, but it's so different at the same time. And I'm so fascinated with it. And like you said, it's a completely different nut to crack. And a lot of the skills that come on the Twitch side don't necessarily translate over onto the YouTube side. If you had to have somebody on or if you had the opportunity to have somebody on your podcast, though, that has nothing to do with Twitch, nothing to do with YouTube, gaming, anything like that, just like somebody that you've just always wanted to talk to, do you have any idea who that would be? Or a couple?
It would probably be somebody it's probably going to be someone creative. So it would probably be someone who is in the arts world, or someone who's made something that I value. That I love getting into the heads of creative people. Alternatively, it might be somebody from a completely different world, just a world that I have not really stepped into, be that through a certain career trajectory or a certain lifestyle, or maybe just literally a different place on earth. You know, like there's not one specific thing, just something that fascinates me. And the truth of the matter is, when you get down to it, a lot of people are fascinating. There's a lot of interesting people out there. I have a friend who's a friend and ex-colleague who recently got published. He's a writer as well, and he's a guy that I love speaking with. We basically have a podcast IRL every month where we just sit down and you know, over dinner we speak for a few hours. And he's someone I've considered getting on there to talk. I don't know.
That could be really cool, honestly. I actually, oddly enough, have a very similar friend who just randomly, I used to work with him a lot, and he's like the best salesperson you've ever met in your life. This guy like eats and breathes selling and getting people to, you know, accept whatever he's selling. Essentially, that's like his big drive. And when he gets that contract and gets everybody to sign, it's like he feels like he's on top of the world. And I always talk to him like once a month, kind of similar as that, and we have, you know, an hour or two discussion, and it's just so fascinating the way, and it's not even about necessarily the selling or whatever subject they're in, but just how their brain thinks, how it processes information, how just everything kind of connects for them, why they see the world the way they see the world. And it's almost deeper than the actual subject in and of itself. I just want to get to know like how they came to the point of who they are, you know.
And that can only enrich your experience of the world. You know, the more we're able to see and understand the vastly different perspectives that are going on, you know, sometimes I think we're conditioned to think of people as running along one or two or three tracks in terms of the labels, way of perceiving the world, labels and this and that. But the more people you speak to, the more you realize that it's chaos. People are out there coming from all different perspectives and with all different values and approaches to living, and it's awesome. It's mind-blowing how different people are. It's really cool.
I'd say that's a big strength, honestly, of Joe Rogan, is just the variety of people he has on his show. Immediately like speaks to me wanting to do more stuff like that, because like I love having Twitch streamers on and gaming people, and I want to continue having more and more content creators and streamers on. But it would be really cool to just dip your toes into, what if you had authors come on, what if you had politicians come on, what if you had like directors or artists, and just all these different minds and all these different people. And there's definitely a slight ounce of me that's just like a little bit selfish about it. I'm just like, I just want to like learn everything about you and figure out how you tick, like from a personal perspective, you know?
Oh man, I mean that's one of the best things about being alive, is the fact that we get to be alive with each other. And it's also one of the worst things, but mostly one of the best things. And like, you know, I think about what sometimes people ask me why I decided to live abroad and why I traveled again and this and that, and ultimately a lot of it comes down to just that, just wanting to, I just feed me more people, I need more, like I thrive off this shit, you know, like it's a big world out there, big world.
It's like a passion for wanting to learn more, you know. What was it like living in China? How recently were you living there, out of curiosity?
I moved there, I think in 2013. 2013, I lived there for 3 years. What was it like there? It was another world. It was another world, dude. It was strange how quickly I slotted in there. It was it really, you know, there's something about that place that feels cut off for some obvious reasons. You know, you can't really, like, you can't use Facebook. I mean, you can get VPNs and stuff, but a lot of communication is cut off, a lot of that internet communication, and you feel like you've played Final Fantasy VIII, right?
I have, yeah.
That was actually the first game I came into your stream on, so I know that. So it felt like a little bit, you know, in Final Fantasy VIII where you go to Esther.
Yes.
And you're like, where the hell did this place come from? Like, I thought we were on this world, now we're in this other, and it's big. It kind of felt like that. Like, obviously it's not, it doesn't look like that or anything like that, but it was this. I'm like, man, this is another world. Like, I've been to other countries before, but this is something else. And no, it was awesome because you get to share. Not only did you have to learn the language, like sink or swim, because people aren't speaking English to you there. And not only do you get the cultural experiences and having to adapt and to all these things, but you also get to live this life with other expats from all around the world who've also chosen to live this life. And it's this kind of it's like a combination between a regular 9-to-5 life where everyone has jobs and stuff like that, and this kind of adventure. And so I made a lot of friends for life there. And so it was great. It was fantastic.
Did you ever get to visit Shenzhen by any chance?
Yeah, I used to go through Shenzhen to, I had to do visa runs sometimes for my work visa, and we'd go to Hong Kong. The cheapest way to fly from Kunming, to get from Kunming to Hong Kong, is fly to Shenzhen and then catch the bus and the train down from Shenzhen through to Hong Kong, cross the river. Why do you ask?
I've watched a couple documentaries about Shenzhen specifically, and it is like so incredibly fascinating. Actually, I had one of my friends, Crises, I had her on the podcast a couple weeks back, and we spent like a whole half hour just talking about China. I am so fascinated with China. I think it's almost like, I'm sure it might be different, and well, maybe not even different in 2013, but it's almost like stepping 10-15 years in the future. There's so many things they have that are just so, specific to like smartphones and ordering everything and QR codes, and just, it's almost like a different world in and of a sense. So right when you said Esther from Final Fantasy VIII, I'm like, I immediately know what you're talking about. It's like the same world, but you're like, everything is like more advanced almost. It's cool.
Yeah, well, simultaneously 10 years in the past and 50 years, 10 years in the future and 50 years in the past, it's a bit of both. And another really interesting thing is that so I've spent time in the US and I've spent time in China, and the one thing that those countries have in common from an Australian perspective is that when you're in those places are the center of the universe. The rest of the world, from the perception of those places, the rest of the world revolves around those places, and it's true in both places. And there's something exciting about being in that. There's something fascinating. And talking about Shenzhen, were you guys talking about like the fact that it was like a fishing village and then grew in like 20 years?
Yes, literally, like seeing photos from like 1980 to 90 to 2000, 2010. It's beyond astronomical just how advanced everything is. And of course a big part of that is, the government can pretty much snap their finger and thousands of people can work 24/7 overnight. Especially, we saw hospitals being built in a week, 2 weeks, during COVID times. So they can just snap their fingers and make it happen, which is incredible and not incredible at the same time. So it's like you said, 10 years in the future, 50 years in the back, and in the past in some senses. But it was more like a lot of the technology stuff, how a lot of tech stuff is made there. And they have like huge supermarkets just filled with computer parts or smartphone parts. And if you want to like build a smartphone, pretty much everybody goes there, because they can just go to a supermarket, pick out the pieces they need, and just create their own phone and their own electronics and just mass market it. And there's so much less like red tape from the government that if a company just has an idea, they can make it, they can get it going so fast.
That's the interesting thing, right? Is that there's this idea, and I had it when I was before going there, that it's very restricted, it's very controlled, it's very bureaucratic, it's very, these are the ideas that we hear about it. And in a sense, that's true, but only in a sense. In many regards, it's much more free. You're much more free to behave in the way you would like to behave, so long as you're not shitting on the government.
Right.
You're much more free to, there's a lot of entrepreneurialism going on out there. There's a lot of, Yeah, there's these markets you speak of, they're crazy. Like there's just a lot going on, and it is exciting. There's an abundance.
And it's interesting too from like an American perspective, because when I think of like cities and metropolises, of course you think of like Los Angeles, New York City, you think of like Tokyo, you think of these just like monster, like Mexico City, these huge places. But honestly, like all of it almost pales in comparison to the massive cities of China. Like China has like multiple Tokyos just all interconnected, like down the coastline to just form this massive, just mega city. And it's so fascinating and incredible. And I've watched a lot of documentaries about a lot of those cities, and I'm so fascinated by it.
If you ever get the chance to visit, I would highly recommend it just for 30 days. Like it's a trip, and I think a lot of people are a little bit scared of it, more so than other countries to travel to.
Yeah.
But the thing you realize when you go there is that it's a place filled with people.
Right.
And that's the bottom line, like it's very different. There's going to be things that conflict with your ideology. Like there were a lot of things that were a little confronting, but then there's a lot that I'm like, wow, why are we like this? This is way better.
Right.
You get faced with the positives and the negatives, but it's all underlined by the fact that there's human beings living their lives there. And so humans in general, when you share a humanity, when you sort of show, when you're respectful and you give of yourself and you behave in a certain way, people open their arms to you. And I had a lot of wonderful human experiences over there. And so that's something that anyone that's like worried that it's going to be like, I don't know, terrifying, it's not really. It's kind of great, actually.
Yeah. We really kind of have been, at least I can only speak on like the United States side, but there's definitely this anti-view in some respects to China, for a lot of different reasons. Some of them definitely well deserved, like some of the currency manipulation, or like just straight up stealing like software and hardware things and just mimicking it. And so some of it of course is definitely well deserved, but it's like, yeah, at the end of the day, those are it's like the difference between micro and macro,
Yes.
Like there's like an overarching view of China, and then there's when you go to the city and you meet one particular person at a restaurant, and that own person is just trying to live their best life, make money for their family, send their kids to school and everything. Like we're at a very base level, we're all the same people.
Yeah, and look, I saw some shit over there. Like it's let me give an example. So one day I'm walking to my work. I lived about a 15-minute walk from my work where I taught, and it's this street. It's this lovely tree-lined street next to the university, Yunnan Dashi, which has lots of food stalls, like maybe it's like a 150 meter, 200 meter stretch of road, tree lined with probably like at least a dozen food vendors. They might have these kind of baked sweet potatoes, or people doing these kind of Chinese pancakes, all the stuff, it's very
yummy.
Very happening. You can kind of imagine what it's like. And they were there the day I arrived. Presumably they were there the day before I arrived, and so on and so forth, until this one day when I turned the corner and there was this commotion. In front of me, there is this big truck, and it's got a huge shredder, like one of those like wood chipper shredders. And then up the road, there's about 50 army men, all holding rifles, right? Like all lined up, just standing there. And this thing is going up the road to all the stalls, and army men are taking their stalls and throwing them in the wood in the wood thing and just shredding everyone's stall. And the army men are there just like, are you going to fucking do something about this? And no one said shit. And it's just like the government decided, screw all you guys, you're done today. And I was just in shock, like just watching them, like, and no one could do anything.
Right.
And it was just like it was a real flex of like, no, there's some power here, and you don't mess. Like, if they want to wipe you off the face of the earth, you're gone, and there's no questions, there's no ifs, buts, or whens.
Did you ever figure out, or did you ever figure out specifically like why that got initiated? Or
well, yes, there was theorizing around the office, and luckily, I had a pretty good relationship with my boss, who, though she's not from this city, she's from Shanghai, and she has a better understanding in general of how things work over there. So the theory was, because it was next to the university, there was probably a government visit planned. And so the idea is that instead of the local government, it was like a federal or a national government visit to the university. And I guess they wanted to make it look like it was all nice and clean and this and that. And so rather than sending out letters, a month before and be like, please don't turn up today, we would like you to just remain at home or take your business around the street. They just did it that way and said, no, now you're gone. And because in the weeks that followed, I was like, man, that's devastating. Like, they're all gone now. Right. But in the weeks that followed, they started popping back up. And then like a month later, everything was back to normal. And it's just like, oh, and no one cared, and they weren't in trouble for it or anything like that. It was just like, on that particular day, if your business was there, it was getting shredded, and you could not do a goddamn thing about it. But look, the people were flexible, and no one seemed to kick up a stink, and life moved on.
Very interesting. That is super fascinating, because definitely here people would just rage. It'd be all over Twitter. There would be like, they'd be suing and everything. But at the same time, like, not at all saying that's okay, but the flexibility aspect of it, like, crap happens in life, we're just going to keep rolling on, keep moving along ahead. There's something admirable, I think, to be taken from that. Yeah. It's
that's
super fascinating.
It was something else, dude. It was something else.
I guess I know we're kind of running a little bit short on time, so I do kind of want to wrap up with a couple questions that I really do want to get to you before we end. If you could travel back in time, Porto, and give your day one streaming self one solid piece of advice, what would you tell yourself, dude?
If I could travel back and tell day one streaming self, get better lighting.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
But more honestly, relax. Yeah. Don't be impatient. Like it's don't take a day as being indicative of the overall situation. There's ups and downs. Relax, enjoy the journey.
Ooh, that is such a good one. So many people are just like, I had a bad stream, I'm gonna focus on it, I'm going downhill from here. So not focusing on like one bad stream or even one good stream. If you have a monster raid from Ninja come in, that doesn't mean you're exactly superstar level yet. So take everything with that grain of salt perspective, right?
Very good point. Yeah, absolutely.
So here's a good one I think you'll like. What is your favorite haiku of all time, and could you possibly read it to us?
Well, I always have my haiku book on the ready. This wasn't planned, by the way. I didn't know this was coming. This is let's see, we got it. Look, I got a couple of really good ones. So I'm not going to give you my favorite, but I'm going to give you the one that roasted me the most. So I was playing Dark Souls, and there was let me just quickly find it. Something that's known on my channel is if I rage too hard, people generally will redeem a haiku, mostly to calm me down.
Yeah.
And so I'm playing Dark Souls and playing a boss, and for whatever reason, I can't roll. I can't get the iframes. I'm just not dodging correctly.
Ornstein and Smile.
No, it wasn't them. I've gotten to the point I can beat them first time now. Though they were the hardest boss ever when I started. They killed me like 50 times first time round. No, it's the Fire Sage demon, which isn't that hard. But now it's like my bugbear. It kills me a bunch now. it's like a psychological thing. Anyway, I'm dying to this Fire Sage demon. I can't dodge roll. I can't get it done. I'm going crazy. People redeem haiku, and I read this next in the list of Matsuo Basho haikus, and says, "Clouds, a chance to dodge, moon viewing."
Ooh.
And then I raged at the haiku because it was roasting me for not being able to dodge.
Oh god, that's a perfect coincidence.
I know, right? I know, it got me. And so I was even more incensed than prior to it. But no, like there's a ton in here that I really love. I think my favorite haikus like, look at this one. "Be careful where you aim. Peaches of Fushimi." Just nice ones like that. You know, nice little, like these scenes, these countryside scenes. Maybe there's sometimes an allegory or a metaphor, but often it's just like meditative and you can just be in that space. And so I don't have a favorite necessarily. I just like them in general.
I like the vagueness of them because that can just, everybody can connect to it, you know? Sometimes I feel like, especially in music, when the lyrics are so specific to the person, it almost loses that attachment or that humanity, if that's the word, that other people can grasp onto. Because when it's a little bit vague, maybe not specific names and everything, and it's just out there, more people can kind of grab onto it and find some meaning in it, you know?
That's how horoscopes work.
Yes.
Just keep it vague. You be careful with the distress in your life. Don't focus on it.
Right.
And everyone will be like, yeah, I shouldn't focus on that. They're talking about me. No, I totally agree.
Yeah, horoscopes. I only recently learned what my horoscope was because Fortune Cookie actually like kept repeatedly reminding me about it. But I've always felt like horoscopes, every one of them has just very vague, open to interpretation statements that anybody listening could be like, oh yeah, I am an Aries. That totally matches me. Oh yes, I am a Sagittarius. Like, of course you're a Sagittarius. Everybody's a Sagittarius. Everybody can find meaning in that statement.
Damn. Well, look, I will say that I do find something compelling about the idea, not the reality, but the idea that if you're born in a certain part of the year, that maybe the tides when you're born, we're made from water, maybe the brain chemistry when you're born, like there might be something to it. But here's where it gets blown out of the water, is that how then can I be a Scorpio in one hemisphere and I'd still be a Scorpio in another hemisphere at the same time? It's completely different conditions.
That is so true. That is so true. You know, I might be the most ignorant person in the world, but it blew my mind a few months ago when I realized that our seasons are different if you're on the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. I'm sure I must have learned that somewhere in school, but there was a moment where I'm like, wow, it's so cold here. It's winter time. And I can't remember who it was, but somebody was like, oh, it's scorching hot here. It's summertime. I'm like, wait, why is it summertime in January? What are you talking about?
Yeah, man. Yeah, we do Christmas in summer over here, which is very weird.
Oh, the world's such an interesting place. So kind of stemming off of that, in one of the follow-ups to the last questions I can ask you, Porto, in your own words, what does streaming mean to you, my friend?
Ooh, all right. What does streaming mean to me? Streaming to me means an opportunity to create, an opportunity to connect, an opportunity to grow, a challenge, a constant challenge that is always rewarding, always throwing new things at you. And it's a liberating thing. It's something that is self-determining, that, you know, we can be our own bosses. We can be our own critics. We can be our own fans. We can be whatever. It's everything, dude. It's everything.
Dude, I like that a lot. There was a lot of good points in there. I agree with all of it. Last question for you, Porto, because if y'all do not know, Porto is about to start streaming right now. So if you have not followed Porto on Twitch, what are you doing, everybody? You need to follow Porto on Twitch, everybody. And of course, links absolutely will be down in the description below for YouTube and Twitch for My Name is Porto. But where can all of our viewers and listeners connect with you online, Porto?
Probably the Twitch would be the most likely place. I'm there 3 days a week. Also the Discord, of course. We got the Discord going. We got a bunch of stuff going on in there, and yeah, on my YouTube as well. It's nice, the YouTube right now, because it's very small and growing, so I get the chance to actually read comments, and I reply to most of them as well. So that's kind of a point of connection. You know, but I would say the best answer to that is wherever you would most like to connect with me, wherever you can find me.
And like I mentioned before, Twitch, YouTube, the links will absolutely be down in the description below. Porto, it has been an absolute honor having you on the podcast, my friend. Thank you seriously so much for your time, for being here, for taking time out of your busy day to come and hang out with me. I really do appreciate it, dude. 100%, man.
It's been marvelous, dude. You know, it was really fun speaking to you the first time round, and this was even more so. It gets better every time.
100%. I mean, maybe a round 3 in the future. I think that would be awesome.
Hell yes.
Everybody, thank you all so much for watching and listening to this week's episode of the Zephcast. If you have not done so already, please be sure to smash that beautiful like button for the YouTube algorithm. It really does help the channel a lot. It really does help the channel out a lot. And if you want to see more of your favorite content creators, streamers, and podcasters in the near future, consider subscribing. It's absolutely free to do so. We'll be having even more content coming up, friends. Thank you all so much for watching. ZephyrsXP, my name is Porto. I will catch you all in the next ones, my friends.
Bye, guys.
Much love, everybody.